Hello, this is Heretic Prince. Kotaku wrote a very long and, I'll say, interesting article about the problems with Critical Role. And this article is very long. Long like having sex after you've had a few too many whiskeys. You know it's taken a very long time. You know she's just waiting for you to finish. But you're no quitter. The bits and pieces of this article I was able to read before getting lost in my own miasma of misery. It's pretty much just them saying, we want your platform, give it to us. They don't say it outright, but that's where they're going. Oh, Dark Lord help me, here we fucking go. I'm gonna do this, I'm actually gonna do this. I don't want to do it. I need beer, I'm drinking Coke. I'm stalling, I'm fucking stalling. Okay, let's start it. The problem with Critical Role's latest campaign. The setting of Marquette was inspired by Southwest Asia and North Africa cultures, but it's viewed from a distorted outsider perspective. I mean, already, just at the beginning, you're thinking of things. Well, at least I am. Number one, being inspired by does not mean accurately. Don't know if you noticed, but D&D happens in fictional lands, which can be inspired by a lot of different things, but they're never exact. Or do you want to tell me that Southwest Asia has dragons and genasi, however you pronounce it? Now, granted, I've never been to Northern Africa, but I'm fairly certain that they don't have warlocks there. I gotta keep moving. I can't get stuck at this. I can't get stuck here. I'm going to be here all day. In the early fall, the hugely successful Dungeons & Dragons actual play series Critical Role announced plans for their third campaign, set in the fictionalized world of Marquette. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So I haven't really gotten a chance to sit down and watch a lot of Critical Role lately. While the campaign would draw inspiration from real-life Swana, which is, I guess, Southwest Asia and North Africa cultures, the group would work together with sensitivity consultants to craft a fantasy continent free of appropriation. Oh my good lord. You see, whenever you do things like this, you kind of send out you think you're sending out a signal flare saying, look, I'm one of the good guys, I'm on your side. What you're really showing is that you're ready for a higher form of submission, which is what prompted this article. You see, if you follow the cast of Critical Role, every now and then they tweet out the correct Hollywood-approved opinions. They put out those tweets that get applause from the Puritan crowds. What people still haven't caught on to is that puts a huge target on your back. It means you won't fight back. Though I'll give Critical Role some credit here. As far as I know, they never responded to this article, which is really the right move. But the problem with trying to make sure that no appropriation happens is that if you ever look at the rules for appropriation, it's nearly impossible not to. Puritans will tell you that it's appropriation to take things from another culture that is not yours. Cultures sharing with each other is how society has expanded. It's how we've progressed. We began to understand things. Sorry, I'm debating basic history. I'm sorry, my point is that the same people who will tell you that cultural appropriation is wrong will be the same people who will, and I'm not going to say which race or which people they accuse this of, but they say that they have no culture. So, if those people show any culture, well, they had to steal it from somebody else, so it's appropriation. The rules cannot be satisfied. It is a loser's game. You cannot win. You're literally walking into a casino called You Can't Win, and you just put your money on the table and they take it. You cannot win. You have no culture. Everything that you do was taken from some other culture. Okay. Oh my god, this is the first fucking paragraph. Dungeon Master Matt Mercer said in a blog post, Mercer sounds earnest enough. And it's nice to see them be proactive about hiring consultants right off the bat instead of waiting to be called out on a misstep. So why were some people so mad at them? Because they can't fucking help themselves. They'll always find a reason to be mad. Critical Role has something that they want, and so they're chipping away trying to find a spot in the armor. If Matt Mercer and his crew never do anything wrong, they will rewrite the rules to make something that they did in the past wrong. When the campaign was initially revealed, the criticism from the tabletop role-playing game sphere and from Swana creators like myself boiled down to Critical Role making a financial killing off the aesthetics and cultures not represented in the actual cast makeup of the show, which is made up entirely of those white people, save for a new guest member. There was also a healthy amount of apprehension as to how respectfully this world was being built. How do you respectfully build a world? Should we ask that world if it felt respected? This is fucking insane. Okay, but just something to note here. The point being made is that if your world that you're going to build in D&D takes any inspiration from any culture or any land, then your players have to represent, I guess, those people that maybe come from those lands or those cultures. I want you to imagine that a player sits down at your table, buddy you've been playing with for years, and he says, yeah, my character's going to use a katana. You say, whoa, buddy, you're a white male. You can't use that weapon. It's not part of your culture. Well, what is part of my culture? I don't know. You're a white male. You don't have a culture. You get to sit there and watch the rest of us play. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I can't say things like that. That's racist. It's racist for me to point that out. Or maybe not. It's big. It's something. It's something. It's horrible. After the campaign was announced in October, critical attention gradually ebbed away as the Discord will continue to turn. What kind of sentence is that? But on December 10th, Critical Role released the intro sequence for the third campaign, a dramatic music video that cuts between the cast members at the table and themselves in costumes exploring an unseen fantasy environment. It appears to be an innocuous, silly video, where the cast members sing, make over-the-top expressions, and roll dice in intense slow-mo. But the overlying aesthetic is what plays the critical role in the reignition of this discussion. This seems like a silly video because it is a silly video. But somehow this reignited a discussion of appropriation, apparently. On a by far more important note than anything this article has to say, Ashley and Bailey are cute as hell. I mean, they are honestly pretty. I guess this is where somebody says, they don't exist to look good on the eyes for you, heretic. Shut up. I like looking at them. They're pretty. Suck my dick. This attire might seem inspired by franchises such as Uncharted. Really? Such as Uncharted, The Mummy, and Indiana Jones, and the classic adventure serials that influence those stories. But those are charged colonialist stories for people of color. Yes, these costumes are functionally harmless, as anything is on a purely aesthetic level. But they speak to a legacy of disregard and disrespect to colonized cultures, often robbed, literally, of their material heritage and ancestry by the outside explorer, who represents a larger power structure. Yes, when countries became powerful, they started exploring other lands. Happened in North America. As a result, the United States was created. The United States created the iPhone, from which you tweet about how horrible colonization is. Yeah, so go on, tweet about how horrible the United States is on a platform created in the United States, on a device created in the United States, with that right to free speech procured in the United States. Here's to ya. The desire to protect and preserve history in a museum is an admirable one. But even the most heroic and selfless of fictional explorers in these classic tales is still stealing from the people indigenous to the foreign lands they explore. Is foreign literally in quotations? Yes! When you go to another land, that land is foreign to you. I understand that technically when you go to a different land, you are the foreigner, but that's from their perspective. Okay, I got it. Oh my god. I'm only like four paragraphs and I should have bought some wild turkey before I started this. Removing these artifacts from their homelands to be displayed elsewhere also suggests that the people of those cultures are incapable of being responsible for the preservation of their own history. The consequences of these narratives, both real and fictional, persist to this day, with many museums in the Western world boasting catalogs of artifacts acquired through colonialist means. I don't know what it is about that word. I have a hard time saying it. Colonialist. So, just to recap, they're losing their mind because Critical Role has an intro where they look like explorers exploring some kind of ruins. That's what prompted this outrage. I'm just trying to imagine a culture that never explored. I mean, when they were born, did they just sit there in that one spot like, nope, can't go anyplace else. Don't want to take anybody else's stuff. They just sit there and starve to death because they don't want to kill a deer out there somewhere because it might belong to somebody else or it might be part of somebody else's culture. Everybody had explorers. Get real. The intro video that Critical Role has created feels a little too on the nose in that regard. Rather than dressing as characters that reside in the world they've created, they are instead dressed like colonial explorers from the 19th and 20th centuries, with a lantern in hand to help them dispel the fog. They are fully embracing their roles as voyeurs. Really? They are cementing their perspective as that of the outsider, even in a fantasy setting of their own creation. Well, it's not their own creation, it's Matthew's creation. The others may have put in some input. But as a Dungeons & Dragons player myself, yes, you are an explorer. You are learning about the world as you move through it, even if your character is aware of the world. My current character is proficient in history and religion. I made him that way so he would know about the world, so that whenever we go to a new area, I as a player don't know shit about it. But I ask the DM, does my character know anything about this place? And then, if I roll well enough, he tells us. And in a way, that is exploring the world our DM created. All of us players are explorers to this world that the DM created. Despite being the defining publication of an entire field of literature, artistic and academic criticism, Edwards said Orientalism famously fails to account for the multi-million-dollar earning Critical Role. What the fuck are you talking about? Said was at something of a disadvantage here, as the book was published in 1978. Regardless, the seminal text provides a helpful framework for understanding the issue at hand in this controversy. What fucking controversy? What? You still have yet to lay forward any controversy. Now, I know what you might be thinking. He's not honestly going to read every word. Well, I'm going to try to, because I think it is important for people to see the kind of madness that they are buying into. It is important for people to understand what religion they are worshipping. How the rules of this religion offer absolutely no redemption. You cannot win. The rules contradict themselves and each other to make sure of one thing. You are always wrong. Take the end of this paragraph, for example. For those who aren't fellow art school escapees, Orientalism is a book by Edward Said, I hope I'm saying that last name right, and a critical concept describing the Western view of the colonized world, specifically the Orient, referring to Asia and North Africa. It's a method of literary and artistic analysis of works made by the West that portrayed the Orient, frequently from the viewpoint that exoticizes the region and its cultures to create a colonial fantasy. With the West wielding imperial power over the Orient, they're subsequently able to categorize and define portrayals of the Orient in whichever way they please, even if they aren't aware that they're doing it. You see, once they accuse you of something, you're guilty of it. You're just not aware that you're doing it. If you say that you didn't, you're just not aware that you did it. And I feel like this article is trying to trick people into arguing against the dumb stuff being said, so that way you sound like you're defending imperialism. One of the core concepts of Orientalism as a field of study is that even the most well-meaning scholars from the Western world are unable to present objective truths about the Orient. The Western view of the Orient is forever tarnished by... Why the fuck are we talking about... We're talking about Critical Role. Why are we going on and on about this? You're fucking melting my mind. There's no reason to keep going into this. We're talking about a fictional world that may or may not be inspired by the Orient. And who cares if it's a Western view of the Orient, then translated into a D&D world, which has a bunch of shit that was never in those places to begin with. You're pissing me off. God damn it, I lost my place. Okay, yeah, here, they're just basically saying, if you're a Westerner, you can't understand the Orient. That's all they're saying. You can't get a clear view of it. Your brain is too small, you're too dumb to understand it. Let's move on. This may seem like an overly cynical and bad faith interpretation of what Critical Role is doing in this new campaign. Do you think... Hey, does anybody think this is a bad faith? That maybe... Hey, all of you people who don't exist in my living room, you think that maybe this is a bad faith interpretation? Oh my god, this person actually has some self-fucking awareness. Of course it's a bad faith interpretation. That's your point. That's what's trying to be done here. Look how bad and evil Critical Role are, and we need to take them down. Their cast needs to be replaced with people from these other cultures that this D&D world is supposedly inspired from. No, this group of friends that have been hanging out together for years, they need to be broken up. They need to be broken up. And by the way, don't forget that they mention how much money Critical Role makes. It's their own greed and lust for power covered up in the fucking cloak of morality. You have something I want, give me. You know, I'm just going to say it. They're trying to colonize Critical Role. If you really hate colonization that much, then stop trying to do it to other things. Cheers. I'm looking at this and I want to continue reading the article, but I need to drink. Oh my god. Okay, here we fucking go. Alright, let's do this. But real, respectful depictions of the Arab world and of Swana cultures are few and far between. And we aren't the ones who have the resources to tell our stories yet. We're hired to help white creators avoid mistakes and absolve them of guilt, to shield them from criticism, and feel grateful we're even allowed behind the curtain. 4 months later, nothing has worsened, but nothing has been assuaged this feeling either. I like this. We don't have the resources to tell our stories. Write a book. Literally, write a book. It costs nothing to do. Even I've done it. Now, is it published? No. No, it's still stored on my hard drive. It costed absolutely... It literally costed me $0 to do it. Because I had the computer anyway. I was going to buy the computer for other stuff. It costed me nothing to write the book. Do it. Do it. Put the book out there. For the love of God. Oh. Small mental health break. That is Sam Riegel, if you're a Critical Role fan. You already know that, but I didn't know this. In the War for Cybertron series, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, that's it. Love those games. He voices Starscream in both of those. And honestly, whenever I found out looking at him, I wasn't surprised that he could make that voice. Whatever. I love you, Sam. Okay, people, are you still with me? Are you still hanging in there? I would like to take this moment to remind you that if you have any loaded firearms in the house, I highly suggest that you unload them. Maybe lock the ammunition up in a separate space. Since the intro sequence was released, the campaign has continued and now has over 12 episodes. Now, they don't explicitly say this, right? But it seems to me like that is said over 12 episodes. It's said like, how dare they get that far with this intro still playing? Imagine thinking that you have this kind of authority. That what Critical Role did was such an offense. that some government body, some other force should have stepped in and made this stop. I know they don't say that, but after reading the rest of that's the feeling that I get from the text. And if somebody's going to say, well, you're taking them out of context, they're taking the whole intro out of context and get a dose of their own medicine. It thus far exists in a strange half space between Swana-inspired set dressing and the standard familiar high fantasy naming conventions of the show's previous campaigns. Yes, it's almost like it's a created world. There haven't been any outright offensive descriptions or actions taken. Oh, I'm sure if you look hard enough you can find one. I've got faith in you. But the way the cast members roleplay through this world has felt exactly the same as their previous campaigns. Nothing signifies Marquette as a unique world other than the aesthetic of it. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Marquette in the same world as the other campaigns? I mean, in Campaign 2, there was a book written by Percy, and in Campaign 3, wasn't Bert a member from the first campaign? Well, not a member, but he was an NPC. So these worlds are, they're not different worlds. So things would still have the same inherent rules. Whatever. I'm trying to make sense of this person. Stop. One of my biggest faults is that I assume other people are thinking about what they're doing. In the end, despite their dedication to creating an appropriation-free world, that's impossible, they fail to present us with anything of substance. All their research and sensitivity efforts pay off in a world that is little more than window dressing. This isn't a problem unique to Critical Role, in my honest opinion. Predominantly white TTRPG games, both the systems and the individual campaigns, are frequently void of cultural specificity. Fuck it, it's staying in. I'm keeping that word. Specificity. By cultural specificity. I'm sorry, I gotta have fun with this person. They're killing my brain. Specificity. Specific. Fuck it. I mean the unique traits of a culture that are present on a personal and environmental level. In role-playing games with predominantly white players, even with the most intricately built worlds, there are still a lack of connection between the cultures they play in and the way they play their characters. The characters and the people playing them are untouched by the world in which they exist, with most of their specificity coming from individual conflicts and unique backstory elements rather than the overarching connected system of cultures. Even when inoffensively borrowing from European and Scandinavian cultures, these settings are built on the foundation of aesthetics rather than any specific cultural touchstones or unique characteristics of the cultures they borrow from. Yeah, and if those characters or the players were to do anything that was from that culture, like a behavior that's from that culture, they would be accused of stereotyping. The person writing this art, that's even more accusatory. Fuck it, it's staying in. This article is attempting to get them to start stereotyping. What would a stereotypical person, Genesi from Marquette, do? None of us know, because it's a fictional fucking world. Oh my god. And you can't make sense of this, because you always have to remember the number one rule. The words they're saying to you, you think you know the definitions, but you don't, because the definitions are nebulous. They're constantly in flux, and the definitions of the words that people like this use are whatever they need to mean at that moment. They can even be retroactively changed. It's insane. But yeah, they're upset that the characters are not acting as people from that culture would act. But then if they were to act that way, it would be stereotyping. Like I said, it's a casino called You Can't Win. Just put your money on the table and lose it. The only way to win at the Puritan casino is not to walk in. Don't put your money on the table. And they can get mad at you and they can call you a bigot for not putting money on their table. But in the end, you still got your money. I can tell I'm getting really... it's very rare. Something can shake me out of my personality. Something can piss me off enough to rattle me. And I can't tell if I'm mad or if the absurdity of it has me just in this lunacy mindset. I don't know. I feel reality collapsing around me. I feel like Kurt Russell at the end of The Thing, where he knows he's going to freeze to death or he's going to get eaten by the thing, but at that point he just doesn't care. He's just had enough. Whatever. Whatever comes, man. Okay. Gotta quit stalling. Here we go. Even though they hired consultants to help build the world of Marquette, the consultants aren't the people through whose eyes we're seeing the world. We will only ever experience Marquette through the lens of the Critical Role cast, who have already positioned themselves as outsiders. As Orientalism has proved, the reality of who made a culture has less control over how it's portrayed than the ones who hold the power. Consultants may have helped shape the world, but they will not be the ones that guide us through it. Okay, now I see why it's ticking me off. This is a huge conflation. They're honestly trying to conflate this imaginary world with the real world, and then trying to somehow, I don't know. How are you doing? Are you feeling okay? If you need to pause the video and go get a drink or something, I understand. Just, get a drink from the refrigerator. Don't pull it out from underneath the sink. No. Believe me, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Things get better. Alright? I wouldn't blame you for drinking a little gin, though. In October, and even now, most arguments in the show's defense tend to rely on the ever-popular phrase, "It's just a game." Well, that's because it is. Simultaneously chastising critics for overreacting, and watering down the reality of what Critical Role actually is. Each episode opens with Matt Mercer welcoming the audience and referring to himself and his castmates as a bunch of nerdy-ass voice actors, with an ease of self-deprecation that humbles and endears them to the audience of millions. Can you hear that jealousy peeping through you? The way the show is filmed and presented works incredibly well, inviting audiences to feel like they have a seat at the table with these old friends while they play in a game. But it's never just a game. Yeah, it is. It is literally just a fucking game. That's what it is. That's what the fuck it is. It is literally a game. Oh my god, what world do people like this live in? Well, I know what world they live in. They're trying to vilify Critical Role to get it set up for its downfall. They're trying to make the spark, and luckily it didn't catch on. This article failed. It's never just a game. You know who else said that? What the fuck was it called? Oh, that's right. The Bully Hunters. Where they were going to try to track down male players who harassed female gamers. Something that happens so often that they had to fake each instance. They had to fake the whole show. Yeah, connect yourself right to them. It's never just a game. Shut the fuck up. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm doing it. Okay. But it's never just a game, especially not with Critical Role. Does that table exist on some special reality? These are inordinately wealthy people. These are very wealthy people who have branded themselves into relatable creators who play tabletop games like everyone else. So the whole point of bringing up that they're wealthy is to paint them as evil. That's the only reason that exists there. If you can find another reason to include that in there, please tell me. But no, it's to say that they're evil. Around the same time as the campaign announcement, Twitch leaks revealed the earnings of the site's highest paid channels. Among them was Critical Role, which was shown to have earned a whopping $9.6 million in 3 years. Good for them. That's just what the show has earned from Twitch itself, and it doesn't account for the considerable profits made from merchandise, books, or original published game content. This also doesn't account for the Kickstarter campaign to raise money for the animated series of the first campaign, which wound up bringing in $11.3 million. That series, The Legend of Vox Machina, has just premiered on Amazon Prime. Needless to say, there's a lot of money being made here. Despite the impression they strive to give off to their audience, Critical Role is undeniably a franchise before it is a group of friends. I'll fucking deny it. They look like friends to me. Just because they found a way to make money together doesn't mean that they're not friends. And it doesn't mean they're not regular people. Now, would I call them regular people? No. No, I made the mistake of following their Twitter accounts. And I immediately unfollowed, because you don't follow. If you like somebody, the worst thing you can do is follow them on Twitter. It'll ruin it for you. But, like anybody in Hollywood, they start to lose Anyway, sorry, I'm going way off point. The point of the article here is they're rich, and so they're not allowed to portray themselves as regular friends at a table playing a game because they're making money for it. Now, obviously, we see where this is going. Since they're making money, they have some kind of responsibility to Puritans to do what Puritans say, which is some fucked up logic. People who make money through capitalism then for some reason owe their allegiance to Puritans who hate capitalism. Try to understand that. Oh, well, you got money now, so you've got a platform, and you're responsible for everybody's, and your platform could do such good things. And of course, by good things, we mean do what we tell you to, because only the things we believe in are the good things. And we're going to tell you that you should be against capitalism, which is how you made so much money and made a good platform. And I sit here and I sound like some gun-toting redneck who's like, America and capitalism, yeah. I'm a very neutral party in the way of the world. I'm just watching it roll by. But the hypocrisy of it, I have to sound that way. You're saying, oh, well, you made all this money through... I've already made the point. If I don't move on, I'll never get through this. I'm sorry. This is highlit or highlighted. I don't know which. I don't care which word is correct. The highlighted comment is the Critical Role team has a responsibility to acknowledge the colonial origin of the exploration aesthetic they perpetuate. or perpetrate, rather, and if they are as devoted to doing good as they insist, a responsibility to dismantle their legacy. That's what I was just saying. If you're dedicated to doing good, it means you're dedicated to doing what we Puritans tell you to do. They're the arbiters of good and wrong, right and wrong, not the individual. And that says it all right there. If you want to do good, you have to do what we say. Fuck you, fuck what you were raised to believe, fuck your morals. You gotta do what we say. I'll never understand how somebody can think this way. Some of my best friends think a lot differently than I do. And their fan base has only grown over the years. And as the show goes on, much of the lore created by Mercer for Critical Role campaigns has been turned into official expansions for Dungeons & Dragons by Wizards of the Coast, the company which currently owns and publishes D&D. It's no exaggeration to say that the show wields an immense amount of influence over the Dungeons & Dragons community as a whole, and of course they must use that influence to Puritan whims. Of course. Imagine thinking somebody is a villain because they don't use what they created to push your agenda. With Critical Role being as influential to D&D as it is, it's highly likely that Wizards of the Coast will release official Marquette-branded content which will then become the de facto Swana-based fantasy setting for mainstream tabletop gaming for years to come. And this is understandably worrying. No. No, it's not. To many Swana people working in games, particularly in tabletop circles. Some express their discomfort only to immediately be hounded by defensive fans. Create your own campaign. And unlike you, I promise we won't take it from you. Create your own campaign. Much of that defense manifests as fans insisting that the cast members are good people, which they very well may be. They very well may be, possibly. But good intent doesn't matter when the end result is harmful. Really? Harmful. I guess. Did you need to go to the hospital? How much blood was lost? It doesn't mean jack shit. Oh, they're getting spicy. If you promise to be moral and responsible with your depiction of other cultures, and then publicly condemn anyone who is made uncomfortable by your actions. That's right. Only Puritans are allowed to publicly condemn people. Only they can set witches to the flame. Only they can burn the heretics. They are the sole moral arbiter of what can make somebody uncomfortable and what doesn't. What you're allowed to do, what you're allowed to say. With a platform as large as theirs, the members of Critical Role must understand that every action they take is one that will echo and reverberate across their fans and tabletop communities as a whole. The Critical Role team has a responsibility to acknowledge the colonial origin of their exploration aesthetics. They perpetrate it. How does this work? They perpetrate and, if they are as devoted to doing good as they insist, a responsibility to dismantle their legacy. I wonder whose legacy they're actually talking about here. Are they talking about the legacy of the explorer? Because all cultures had explorers. Nobody sat in one spot. Or are they talking about dismantling the legacy of Critical Role? Like I said in the beginning, they tell everybody else, if you don't like it, make your own platform. But yet, they colonize other platforms. They take those platforms, and if they can't take them, they'll destroy them. Much like the empires of old. Puritans very much behave in the way that they condemn others for having behaved. And oh my god, we made it. We made it. This is the last paragraph. I can't believe this. I'm so excited. You can't act as a company, but expect to be forgiven like a person. Holy shit, they're already going there. Well, I shouldn't say already. This is the end of the article. What are you talking about? Be forgiven like a person. Puritans do not believe in forgiveness. They believe in submission. They find something that you've done wrong, they browbeat you with it, and if you haven't done anything wrong, then they'll just retroactively make something wrong that you have done. And then after they browbeat you with it, and maybe if you apologize enough and you submit enough and you turn all of your resources over to them, but you'll never be as big as you once were. You'll never make it back. God, let's try this again. Okay, you can't act as a company, but expect to be forgiven like a person. If content creators like the members of Critical Role continue to profit at this scale, they have to understand that they will become beholden to public opinion. They already are! Material wealth has material consequences. Jesus Christ. It is no longer just a group of friends. It was never just a game. What do you say to all this? And you know what? I'm done. I am done with this article. I have no finishing thoughts with this. This article, I hope it has plenty of screenshots, because it really needs to stand as a monument to how much people like this have lost their minds. How much Puritans cannot be satisfied. How they will always take and never give back. That's a nice platform you built there. It'd be a shame if somebody took it. You built that. It should be mine. Give it to me. Give me. It's just unbelievable. It's unfucking believable. With that said, I am tired. I am exhausted. I'm not doing this anymore. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your time. If it suits your fancy, feel free to like, follow, subscribe. And hopefully I can find something that's a little bit more fun to cover as a palate cleanser, because honestly, this one hurt my soul. This one cut deep. Anyway, again, thanks again, and you have a great day.